All right, everybody. This lesson is called Percent Application Finding the Whole. This is the last lesson in terms of like what we're for our missing or for our proportions and the final piece that's going to be missing. To begin, for the warm-up, for letter A4, it says Mrs. Bennett has graded 20% of her students' papers. If she graded 30 papers, how many total papers did she have to grade? All right, well, if we're circling our numbers and underlining our questions, set up our proportion with our two fractions, the first one's going to be 20 over 100 since that's the completed one. And so we know that she's graded 30, but we don't know the total because this is how many total. So the 30 is the part, and then the total is x, okay? So we're going to figure out our scale. So 30 divided by 20 would be 1.5. And if we take 100 and multiply it by 1.5, x equals 150 papers. A5, let's just go underneath that. After a group of 24 parts were tested, 5 were found defective. About what percent of the parts were defective? All right, so I know the 5 is the part and the 24 is the total. And I also know the next fraction would be x of 100, or the next ratio would be, because it's asking what is the percent. So if we figure out, if we do 100 divided by 24, our scale is 4.16 repeating. So I'm going to do that on the top as well. And you should get, if you type that in your calculator, you should get 20.83% repeating. I would also just let you do 21% if you wanted to round it. Either one is fine. Letter B4. Angel is shooting baskets and makes 40% of the 15 shots he takes. How many did he make? All right, so, well, 40% would be 40 over 100 is our first ratio. And then our second, we know he took 15 shots total, so that is going to be the whole number, and then we're missing our part. So in order to find our scale, we'll do 15 divided by 100. And so that would be times 0.15, so times 0.15 times 0.15, and x would be 6 shots. So if he were to make 6 out of 15, he makes 40% of his shots. B5, according to the school survey, 12% of the students at Rockwell Junior High School speak Spanish. There are 36 students at the school who speak Spanish. How many students were surveyed? All right, well, I see that this one has my percent in that problem, so that's going to be my first ratio, 12 to 100, equals, and then for this one, I got to figure out if the 36 represents the part of the whole. Well, because it's asking how many students were surveyed, that is asking about the total. So our whole number is going to be x, and then 36 is going to represent the part. This is nice. So 12 to 36, we would just divide 36 by 12, and that's 3. Multiply that by 3, and this is really nice because it's x equals 300 students. And that's our answer. All right. So I'm going to do this front side for you, and then you're going to be in charge of the back side and the homework. This first example, as a service project, the 6th grade class helped plant trees in a neighborhood park. 36 of the trees were oak trees. This represents 60% of the trees planted. How many trees did the 6th grade class help plant? All right, so 36 is written as a word, by the way, or in word form. So my first one, since we have our percent, that'll be our first ratio, 60 to 100 equals. Now we know that there were 36 of the trees were oak trees, and the question is asking how many total trees did they plant. So the other one is going to be 36 over x. 36 is representing our part, and then and then x would be our total. So if we do 36 divided by 60, so let's draw my arrow. 36 divided by 60 is 0.6, or 60. So, let me erase that, times 0.6. And so if we were to do that, x, if we do 100 times 0.6, move that decimal over twice, that would be 60. So there were 60 trees all together, and that's our answer. Okay. Now, does this make sense in the context of our problem? Well, let's think about it. If you got 36 out of 60 trees planted, right? Well, half of 60 is 30. So 30 out of 60 would be 50%, okay? And then another 10% would be 6, right? Because 10% of 60 is 6. So if we combine those, 6 plus 30, that would give us 36 or 60%. So that does make sense. Number 1, Bernie repaired 12 bikes last week. This is 33.3% repeating of the bikes he repaired in the month of May. How many bikes did he repair in May? All right, so our first one, we can just put 33. I'm just going to put 33 with like 2 3s after the decimal. Over 100, that's our first fraction or ratio. And then this one for the 12, that one is going to be on the top. That's our part, because the question is asking about the total bikes. They don't use the word total, but we can infer from the context of the problem that they're asking about the total. So if you do 12 divided by 33.3 repeating, that is going to give you 0.36 times that by 0.36. And X would be 36 bikes. Okay, if you get like 35 point something like that, that's probably it's just a rounding issue with the calculator. Number 2, a clothing store has a 20% off sale, marking a pair of jeans. Actually, let me go ahead and circle that first part. 20% off, and it's $9.60. What is the full price of the jeans? For my first one, since we have our percent, that would be 20 over 100. Equals, so $9.60, that is the part of it, that's the part of the price. So I'm going to put that on top, and it says what is the full price. So that gives us full price, meaning that that's the total. All right, so if we figure out the scale, let me do this a little bit different color so you can see it better. If we do $9.60 divided by 20, that would be 0.48. So point times 0.48, and then down here times 0.48. And if this is mental math, you just move the decimal over twice, that would be $48. And that is the total price of those jeans. All right. For the backside, the original intent was to have you guys play tic-tac-toe with a neighbor, but since I'm out, you guys can just do these problems on your own. If you wanted to play with I just don't want you to spend too much. I really don't mind, but your intent is to put your name and your partner's name up here, okay? Let's just name Bobby Bob, okay? So Miss Stevens and Bobby Bob are going to play, and you're trying to get 3 in a row. So if you want to, if not, then just do at least, I would say there's 9 of them. I would say do at least 4. And then move on to the homework, so you're not spending too much time on this, because the homework is technically due before the end of class. All right, good luck, and let me know if you have any questions. Let me just see if there's anything else I need to address on the homework. Oh, yes. So for the homework, one thing is, I know it says percent application finding the whole. Not all of these are going to be the whole number. Some of them are asking for the percent, or some of them are actually asking for the part. So it's kind of like so since this is the last day, they want to put all of them together to see if you can figure out what is the problem asking for. So please do not assume that all 8 of these questions are asking for the whole, even though the lesson is called finding the whole. So please make sure you're reading the question properly. All right. Thanks, guys.